Austin, how you doing?
Good, Dad. How are you today?
I'm great. Excited. We got a team with us today. It's going to be fun. So today our journey takes us from coast to coast across America as we take a look inside the heart, mind, and relationship of Team Macintyre and their spiritual journey as players and coaches. This is a story about a generational coaching legacy. My name is Ken Karcher, and I'll be your host. And alongside me is my son, Austin, who'll be the co-host. And we'd like to welcome Team Macintyre as our guest to Awaken Kingdom Culture, where hearts and minds come alive, one story at a time. Welcome, Mike, Jay, and Johnston.
Thanks, Ken. Appreciate it. We're excited to be on.
Yeah, appreciate you.
Glad to be on.
It's an honor to have you guys and to talk about your story and your relationship between each other. And so let's just start, Mike, with you. And give me one word, Mike, looking back, that would have described the Macintyre home that you grew up in, and then tell us about your family and parents and siblings, etc.
I would say the word hope. My dad was an incredible man, and lived his faith and had great hope, and just demonstrated that to my brother and I, and of course, and my mom. And as we traveled around a lot too, as coaches' kids. Like you were saying, this is three generations of coaching and college football coaching in the Macintyre family, and three generations of playing college football also. So college football is a big part to us. Both my parents were educators. My mom was a teacher. My dad started out as a teacher and a high school coach, and then moved into college coaching. But I would say they instilled hope in my brother and I, and a deep, deep faith in Jesus Christ. There was no doubt. My dad lived that on a daily basis, and so did my mom.
I remember playing against your dad when he was the head coach at Vanderbilt, and I always heard great things about him, Mike. How about your brother? Are you the oldest or the youngest?
I'm the oldest. My brother played college football at Western Kentucky, started out coaching, and then got out and got into medical sales, and lives in Nashville, and has been doing that for the last 30 years. And he also has a family. His son plays college high school football, is going to end up playing college football. So it will keep the journey going for sure.
That's awesome.
Jay, you can answer first, and then Johnson, you can answer after. Tell us what it was like to growing up in your household, and then tell us maybe one word to describe your dad.
Well, growing up in a coaching household, it's not always easy, but every single time we moved, every single time we, games were won or lost or anything, we got closer and closer every time. And me and my brother are really, really close. One reason, because of all of the stuff we had to do when we were coaches' kids. We'd go move in the summer, and we'd have no friends, just me and him, and my sister Jennifer too. But we were the boys, so we would go outside and play football together. Be on. And the new video came out, but I remember playing the NCAA video game back in the day with him, and that's pretty much And it was awesome because later on in life, like, all his friends were my friends, all my friends were his friends, and it made us so much more closer. It made us so much closer than we would have been if we didn't have all that stuff. And then my dad's a fighter. I think that's a word for him. He kind of never, he has a dream, and he's always wanted to be a football coach, and he's done it for all the right reasons. And I hear him every day when I played for him at Colorado, and now that I'm coaching with him now, I hear him every day talk about how we're going to help these kids succeed on and off the field, mostly off the field. And that's why he does it. He fights for these kids. He fights for our family. And every single thing he's done in the profession and for our family hasn't been about himself. It's been about us, and it's been about the kids in his locker room. So I just continue to see him fight, continue to see him live out his dream. There's plenty of times where he could have quit, and he hasn't, and he never does, because Macintyres don't quit, and that's what he's kind of instilled in us our whole life. So
Awesome.
it's been really fun. It was really fun playing with him, and now I'm even taking more. I'm not taking this for granted working with him. I'm really enjoyed it. I'm going to continue to enjoy it, and every single day is a blessing to go to work.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. What about you, Johnson?
Yeah, it's definitely been an awesome growing up in the McIntyre household. Moved all over the country, but I wouldn't change it for the world. It's always hard at first moving, but I've loved every single spot on the journey, and loved being a coach's kid. Growing up in the locker room, going to work with him since I was a little kid. I mean, I loved every part of it, and that's kind of we. I kind of said for a while that I wasn't gonna go into football coaching, but then I graduated. I was done playing. I was like, I don't want to be done. I don't want to be done with football. So. Um, I've loved it, and like Jay said, like it's grown our family so close together. Like whenever we moved, it was you had to say bye to friends, but Jay's kind of always been my best friend, so it was always good having him there along with me whenever we went to our next stop. So I've loved every second of it, and it's been a blessing, the highs and the lows. And my word for my dad's probably it's some. I was gonna say resilient. It's somewhat similar to what Jay said, but like Jay said, like whether it's coming off a loss, coming after uh, a high or a low, he's still there the next day, ready to accomplish the goal, just going after it. If you know my dad, he wakes up every day at 5 a.m. on just cloud nine, high energy, and it drives me nuts sometimes, especially on vacation. But that's who he is. He's up at 5 and he's ready to go, and then he's like that all day until about 9 o'clock, and then he is just dead and he's out cold. So there's no in between with him. But it's he's been an awesome dad, and I loved being part of this family and every step of the journey.
Well, that's awesome. I know for me, I really resonate with understanding when you move around, the only constant is your family. That's something. I had two younger sisters and one younger brother, and I have a lot of friends all across the country. But once again, the obviously God goes with you wherever you go, but your parents and then your siblings, they're there with you in that journey, and we grew really close because of that. And then also just your guys' perspective on your dad. I mean, I think there's something special for us sons of fathers who are coaches. It's one thing to watch them coach from afar. It's another thing to watch them live it on a day-to-day basis behind the scenes, but also you know what everyone sees in the public, but also you see how they come home and they work through the highs and lows of the profession. And I think it speaks highly to both my father and your father of how they've been able to navigate that.
So, Mike, when you think back to your dad being a head coach, what was maybe one of your favorite memories? You've heard your son sort of say some things like, but what was one of your favorite memories with your dad being a head coach? And then was there a memorable conversation between you and your dad?
Wow, there was a lot of memorable conversations between my dad and myself. A tremendous amount. I, um, I do remember this. This will go back to when I first started playing ball. Okay, and back then you didn't have all these different shoes and all these different things. You went to the local sporting goods store, and I'll never forget the first cleats I ever bought to play little league baseball. Okay, he made me buy them because I mowed yards. And so I was 10 years old. I bought my first cleats. And then we were talking, and he said, okay, you're going to start playing. That's what you want to do. Yes. I said, okay, you cannot quit. You have to finish the season.
Yeah.
Don't come home, complain. You have, if you're playing, not playing, you're finishing the season. You're always going to do that. So he always instilled that with me. Anytime before I started anything, you're finishing that season. There is no exception to quitting or any, there's that word never enters. And he also said, you're not going to say anything about your coach. You're just going to work. You're going to go. And so that really instilled an ethics of myself of going in.
Mm.
You got to make the best of whatever it is. And then if you do that, a lot of things happen in the positive for it. What was the other part of the question there?
Just did you have a memory as a kid, your dad being the head coach and
Yeah, I have a lot of fond memories. I could tell you story after story after story, and the boys have heard them. But I tell you the one fond memory that meant the most to me when my dad was the head coach at Vanderbilt. As you well know, Coach, you doing it. It's hard to get to your kids' games on Friday
Mm,
nights, and
yep.
so he would do the team meeting at the hotel on Friday night. He would have it, and then the police officer would take him in the police car with the sirens on and everything, and get him to my game. He would watch my game, and as soon as my game was over, he'd take it back, and they would have their team meeting at 9:30 at night, and then put them to bed. So he adjusted his schedule, and just then I knew how, now doing the business, I know how hard that was to do, and just respect that more and more. And it meant the world to me to see him in the stands, watching, when I knew he could be somewhere else, and he had a moment that he could be able to take time to do that, and that meant everything to me.
Wow, that's great.
Jay Johnson, what about same question at you? What was maybe a favorite memory of yours? With your dad being a coach, and then also, what about one conversation that has just stuck with you?
I'll go first. I've been with my dad coaching, and just there's so many different teams and times. I mean, I've coached with him, I've played for him. I was the ball boy. I think, you know, honestly, out of all those times, I think the previous 2 years are probably my two favorite. Just working with him and Johnston every day. Because when you're growing up, I mean, I loved playing at Colorado, all that type of stuff. It was fun. But my dad, and Johnston were like kind of building something together, and got to see each other every single day, and and it was just fun no matter what. But then, like a fond memory, I remember, plenty of times being the ball boy with Johnson at San Jose State, and I had to pull him out of the end zone one time because he was going to get a penalty celebrating with a touchdown. But and then when we were there, those last two games of the regular season, when we beat Louisiana Tech and beat BYU, when we were on the field as ball boys, those were pretty fun moments. Because it was like kind of something that was started from the bottom, and then built it, and got to see everything kind of from an outside perspective rather than being in it. And we loved, and it was my first time. It was the first time my dad was a head coach, and we loved everything about it. So I think that was a fond memory, and then there's plenty of more. I'm sure Johnson has a bunch more.
What about you,
Yeah.
Johnson?
I'd say my favorite memory is Colorado 2016. Jay was playing. My dad was coaching. The last two games of the year, I was a senior in high school, so I was kind of just on the outside, being able to see it all happen. But they ended up winning the Pac-12 South that year, and had, when we got there, they had won one game the season before. It's kind of been our story. Every place my dad's been the coach has kind of been really bad when we showed up, and he's been able to do some awesome things. And what was so special in 2016, especially the last two games of Washington State and Utah, it was really cool watching Jay have such an impact out on the field, as well as my dad coaching, and just knowing, kind of being in Jay's same shoes growing up. Like, you always wanted, like, we love that team so much. We always wanted to be a part of it, and seeing him out there be a part of it and be such a huge focal point of it, especially that Washington State game. He had close to 100 yards receiving. It was a packed house. We stormed the field. It was like a top 25 matchup. That's gonna be a hard moment to beat in my football fandom. So that's one for sure. And then a story just kind of personal to my dad, with me, kind of similar to what he said about his dad making time to go to his high school games. Kind of my whole college career, my dad was kind of my personal quarterback coach too. He called himself quarterback guru. But during the summers I'd always go back, and he'd make time every single day to catch for me. He used gloves at first, but his hands started getting tougher, so he didn't have to wear gloves anymore. But he'd catch for me every single day, no matter what he had going on in his day. He'd work all day in football, and then
come back over and want to do some more football with me out on the field. Or even when even in high school, his practices, he'd be out in fall camp practicing, and then he'd throw with me out on the field afterwards. So that's something that'll always be a fond memory in my heart.
Awesome.
Those are great thoughts and memories, I'm sure, and I know they mean a lot to your dad. Mike, when you think back to your home, you mentioned it a little bit. How did you see your dad's faith play out in the home?
Wow. It meant everything. I used to say, and I still believe this, and my father was the greatest man I've ever seen and ever met. He was truly who he was at home, the same thing in the public, the same thing as a coach. He truly cared about people. He truly loved Jesus Christ as his Lord and Savior. He lived it. His faith was amazing, and he had a hard life growing up. His was not easy, and the reason he went into coaching was high school coaches dove into his life, and he accepted Jesus Christ as his Lord and Savior his senior year in high school at an FCA rally. FCA started, I think, in 1955, and 1957 was his senior year, and they had a pro quarterback come speak, and he went to it. And he felt like, his testimony, he used to say it all the time. I'm sitting in there, had my leather jacket on. I thought I was Mr. Big Deal. And the guy looked right at me and pointed right at me, and spoke some words to me. And he said, I accepted Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior then. And everything changed in his perspective on a lot of things. And he kept following him. And when he was young, he had it would have been my great grandfather, who I never met, would preach at different things, and dad would go around with him. And then dad's family got divorced and split up, and he had to go to Jacksonville, and he just started playing ball. And his father figures at that time ended up being coaches, and he lived that. He lived that for his players. There's many times I heard him talk about different competitions and different guys competing around the dinner table, but the many times that I saw him hurting the most is when he said, I just got to find out how to reach this one man. I just got to figure out how to reach this young kid. And he lived that constantly, and loved my mom tremendously, showed a great love. I've always said that the more the husband shows, the father shows the kids they love their mom, the better, that stronger that makes the younger. And he did that completely and awesome. And then the last thing, at the end of my dad's life, he had MS, and he was basically bedridden for like 10 years. I mean, it was unbelievable.
Wow.
And we would walk in the room, and the boys would do it. He'd hold up his fist, and I go, Dad, how you doing? He'd go, fantastic. And I'm like, are you kidding me? You're laying in a bed and you're saying that? But that showed his faith. And so he lived it ultimately every day.
Wow.
Wow. Jay, what about you? How have you seen faith played in your home?
I mean, one thing that, he was talking about his dad, he has brought up his dad all the time, and just how much, because we didn't ever, we got to see him when we were really young, but he was pretty much bedridden our whole life as well. And just the impact he had on us, and I'll go to my dad later, right after this, but the impact he had on us just being in that bed, changed my life, and probably changed Johnson's life and my whole family's life. Just his attitude, you could see God was living in him, and and that's he's made my dad. That was his hero, and my dad has been my hero and Johnson's hero, our whole lives as well. And he's just a reflection of our grandfather. He shows up every day. There's emotions that go along, but like Johnson says, he wakes up with a good attitude. He always used to tell us, attitude equals altitude. I had trouble, and when I was younger, I sometimes would, be grumpy sometimes, and we work on all that all the time. But you can see the Lord in him and everything he does. That's why he coaches football. You can see the way he loves my mom. That they, I would never have to worry about that. And as I get older, I realize how rare that is. And then also, the way he's loved us. we emotions go in sports and all that type of stuff, and he's pushed us, but he's loved us through everything, through hard times, through good times, through times where we're struggling on something. He's been there for us, and and so is my mom. And in our house, the first thing every time you look at any pictures or anything, it's a verse. It's just God everywhere, and that's just a reflection of my mom and dad. My mom sneaks right when I move. She sneaks in. I'm looking at pictures in my place that I would have up, but she sneaks them in here and makes sure I have them up. No, it's been, and then also the way he coaches the kids. He cares for them. He truly does, and it's frustrating sometimes when you can't reach a kid and different things like that. But he cares about that more than winning football games, and that's been at every stop. But then also when you care about the kids, you develop them, you believe in them. Then that's why he turns around programs as well, because he does it the right way. And we're doing that at FIU, and it's been really fun for me to see him every day doing that from a coaching perspective, and then me be able to be a reflection of him too. And it's been really fun. That's why I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. Johnson, what about you? From your perspective, how has faith played a role in the household that you grew up in?
Yeah, it's been everything. I'm so blessed. I have so many great role models, from my parents to my siblings, my grandparents, and all great faith role models. It's really, our whole family has been built on faith, and our perspectives are, everything my dad does, everything my mom does is led by their led by their faith. And I'd say kind of what I said earlier about my dad's resiliency. I'd say a lot of that is to do with his faith. Like, especially in a football world, it's so easy to, form your identity on your wins and losses, your success, and all that. But he truly does have his identity set in Christ, and that's able to. That's what makes it easier. It's not always easy, but that's what makes it easier to be resilient, and to understand you're not gonna win all of them. We're gonna do everything we can to win all of them, but we're not gonna win all of them. But his identity is truly set in Christ, and him and my mom both have been great examples of that to all of our siblings, and that's who our family is. That's where our foundation is set.
Johnson, hearing you say that, and I know Austin will relate this, and your dad especially will relate to this, to hear a young man at your age in this profession to communicate that truth, that's life changing. And that'll be something that you'll be able to build your house on the rock forever, because it's easier said than done in this profession. As Mike knows, performance-based industry, living out your true identity is a day-to-day challenge, and you need each other. We all need each other. That's why we're doing what we're doing right now with coaches around America, to try to encourage coaches and remind coaches that, yes, you want to win. It's a lot more fun to win. But at the end of the day, the scoreboard can't define you. Something else has defined you a winner before you even start. So great words. And Austin, let's bounce the playing career.
Okay. All right. So this is kind of for all y'all. What was maybe your best, and we'll start with you, Coach McIntyre. What was your best high school memory growing up?
Oh, wow. There was a lot of great high school memories. My head coach was Carlton Flatt at Brentwood Academy in Nashville, Tennessee. They were winningest coach in Tennessee high school football history. I think it might have just got broke a year ago. Um, I would, wow. I, Probably, there's a lot of them, but I would probably say I would say my junior year. No, really, it'd be my sophomore year. Sophomore year was we had other great years, but this memory just sticks out. We had a phenomenal year, and we were going to play. We couldn't get a schedule in Tennessee as many teams. We had to go play a team in Alabama called Hartselle, Alabama, and they had
Yeah.
just won the state championship in Alabama, and we had just won the state championship in Tennessee. And we go down there to play, and we're watching. You watch film, and back then you didn't have all the film like you had here. We actually had 16 millimeter film, and you're watching it, and these guys jumped out on film, and that's the first time I was at Brentwood Academy. I think maybe the last time we that I watched the film, and I go, oh my goodness, these guys can really beat us. And so we go to Hartselle to play, and we beat them at the very end of the game, and phenomenal crowd, phenomenal atmosphere. And so that game was kind of a game that I learned at a young age. You could beat somebody that you thought was better than you. Oops.
Yeah, that's an awesome memory, Coach. Jay, what about you? What was your best high school memory?
Well, I went to two high schools because when my dad took the job at Colorado, that was in the middle of my junior year, so I ended up moving to Colorado. But there was good memories at both places. I would say probably my last game at my first high school, we were in the CCS championship my junior year, and I was trying to tell coach to play me on defense, because I was quarterback, so they wouldn't play me on defense, and I kept on trying to play defense because I thought it could help us there. And then it was the last game of the season, so he's like, all right, we'll let you play defense. But I ended up, getting the player of the game. We won the CCS championship. I scored some touchdowns on offense, and then on defense, I had an interception. I had like 10, 12 tackles, and I returned a fumble recovery for a score. And so, that one was fun just to end it that way because I kind of knew we were going to leave. I kind of knew it was probably going to be my last one there. And then also, at my senior year, a good memory that I had was that was the first time me and Johnson got to suit up together was my senior year playoffs because they moved him up to varsity when he was a freshman. So we got to play 3 or 4 games together
Awesome.
in the playoffs, and we didn't win it all, but it was just fun. We had a good run and we were close, but it was fun to suit up with him because football is a man's sport, and just to put the pads on with him one time or a couple times is definitely a memory that will last forever.
Awesome. What about you, Johnson? What was your best high school memory?
I'd just say my whole senior year. My junior year was really tough. I had multiple injuries and missed basically the whole year in football and basketball. And I was kind of a little bit of a late bloomer, so my junior year was gonna be the first time really like playing varsity sports, and so it was my senior year. We were able to have some success in football and basketball. And I was able to play a big role in it. So I just say that felt really good, especially coming off a really tough junior year.
Awesome.
So, Mike, you choose Vanderbilt out of high school. Obviously, you're going to go play for your dad. What were some of the benefits and challenges you faced playing for your dad? And then do you have a favorite memory playing for your dad?
Yeah, I enjoyed going to play at Vanderbilt University, and I knew coming out of high school when you're a 5'10" quarterback, if you don't go to the academies, you're basically gonna you're gonna be moving. In that day, a lot of guys played quarterback, right? And they move you to DB or whatever.
Yes.
So I going to DB and doing punt returns and kick returns was good. I really always wanted to play for my dad, and he had some good teams at Vanderbilt at that time, and so went there and played. Uh, I we had some really phenomenal games there. I think my sophomore year we were playing Georgia. Georgia's number 5 in the country at our place, and we we were tied on. We ended up tying 13-13. We should have won. We missed a field goal as the clock ran down on homecoming. But that game of playing against Georgia and playing them toe to toe, having an opportunity to win was a really enjoyable game that year with us at Vanderbilt.
Now, something else you and I have in common, Mike, and our kids have it because they're our children. I think you went through with your dad. After your sophomore year, was your dad let go, right?
Yeah, after my sophomore year, my dad was let go. And that,
How did you process that, Mike?
uh, it was kind of numbing at first because I didn't really think that would be able to happen after what Vanderbilt had done since he came in, how much it had changed. But it did, and then I had to refocus and see what I wanted to do, and so I decided at that time you didn't have all the transfer rules like you do now,
No.
but at that time I decided I should transfer, and I transferred to Georgia Tech, which was 4 hours from home. Coach Bill Curry there, phenomenal Christian man, phenomenal coach. They had taught to me some when I was coming out of high school, so I decided to down the road to Atlanta and play at Georgia Tech, and that was a, a, a really growing time for me because I had to redshirt the first year because you had the redshirt rule. So I played
Yeah.
my freshman and sophomore year at Vanderbilt, redshirted, and then played my junior and senior year at Tech and Coach Curry. And then I ended up playing for Bobby Ross because Coach Curry left and went to Alabama. So I played for 3 different head coaches in college. And but the neat thing about it, all 3 of them were national coaches of the year. So I played for 3 excellent men and excellent coaches that really knew the game. And um, I take bits and pieces from all 3 of those guys, and they made a big difference in my coaching career and what I decided to do.
Awesome. Jay, tell us about Colorado, and then tell us maybe some of the benefits and challenges for playing for your dad.
Yeah. So actually, on like right before signing day, I had to let the other schools know where I was going to go and different things. And I was on the phone with my dad for like 2 hours, and I was like trying to make a decision, because I always wanted to play for my dad, and that was always my dream. But there comes some hard things about it too, and there's some
Yes.
really really good things. But I remember asking the question like that kind of persuaded me to okay, I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm going to go play at Colorado. But I was like, because I knew he went through some hard times with his dad at Vanderbilt because he got let go and all that type of stuff. And I was like, with everything that happened, would you have done it again? And he said, I would have done 100 times. I would have done 100 times more. I love the 2 years I had with my father, especially that he didn't know that his dad was going to have MS and be bedridden for his last 10, 15 years. So he got those 2 years of his life with him, so right when he said that, I was like, okay, let's do this. I'm going, and we're not going to look back. And I really enjoyed playing for him. It was no doubt hard, but at the same time, it was I was living out a dream. I mean, just the game that Johnson's talking about, the 2016 season, and even playing 2017 season, just there's some really good games. Living out my dream of playing college football at a big stage underneath my dad, and I gave everything I got. He gave everything he got, and being able to be under the fire together was helped me grow. And I'll look back at those memories and different things that we went through, and we'll always remember it no matter what. But then it's also, and the hard part of it was everybody, you're on a stage where you got to do everything right. Or else it's like the end of the world to everybody else. You could do a million things right, and then the one time you mess up, oh, coach's kid, blah blah blah. So that part was tough. It was we talk about the performance industry and how you get caught up in all this performance stuff. I'm not gonna lie, I got caught up in it because I every single day I woke up, I'm gonna prove people wrong. I'm gonna prove people wrong. I'm gonna go do this, and it got to me a little bit towards the end of my career to the point where I was like, I don't even know if I want to coach football. I don't know if I want anything to do with football. But then now I use all that stuff that I went through, and that's why I coach today, and that's why I enjoy coaching. And every single person in my room, I hope, would say that I'm understanding, and I'm there for those guys, and I want to help them push through all that stuff. And if I never would have went through that stuff, then I wouldn't be near the person or the coach I am today. So definitely
Amen.
definitely would do it again, because there was hard times in that, but I loved waking up every day, playing for the University of Colorado and playing for my dad. And there's a bunch of YouTube games that we can go back later on and watch together and enjoy watching them. So
Awesome. Well, Johnson, tell us about Chapman University and maybe the best advice your dad gave you as a player.
So for me, I decided the last possible second I was going to go to Chapman. It was kind of interesting. I'd grown up, always around Power Five football and the NFL and all that, and I'm the only McIntyre male to not play Division I football. So it was like small school football. I don't know. It seemed like I didn't know if I really wanted to do it or not. The last possible second, I was like, shoot, let's go do it. I want to play. I want to keep playing football, and it was the best decision I ever made. And I loved every second of it. And my coach there, Bob Owens, he's one of my biggest mentors and one of the reasons I'm coaching today as well. So I loved every second of it. Got to be the starting quarterback my last 2 years, and we my junior year we won the most games in school history, and had a lot of fun doing it. Met a bunch of my best friends. So it was definitely a blessing, and I'm glad I got to do that. I'd say my dad, he always told me just be Johnston, just be me. It's so easy to compare yourself to others, especially if you're in I was in multiple like quarterback competitions type things like that. It's so easy to compare yourself to the next guy. Oh, he's taller, he's got a stronger arm, he's faster. But at the end of the day, all you can be is yourself, and you got to just go out there and be the best, very very best version of who you are. And that's what he would tell me pretty much every single time I talked to him. So that was the best advice. Just to embrace what you do well, not worry about what others are doing.
You know, Johnston and Jay, when I'm sitting here listening to you, I'm sure you're catching it, but the words of wisdom coming out of your mouth are so important, because that's why Austin and I love doing this is, each of our stories are unique and they're designed for a specific purpose. If we were all the same, we all had the same story, how boring would that be, right? Mm-hmm. So I find it really interesting that you're now at Belhaven in your first full-time job, that maybe something in your playing career has prepared you now for the Belhaven kids that your dad or Jay or myself, someone else might not have had as you're building your career. So I just encourage you to, just as your father has, that your story is one of a kind, and there's no mistake that Papa's got you where you are right now as well. Mm-hmm. Before we bounce to the coaching career, let's talk about, how would you describe, Mike, in your case, leaving Vanderbilt, Georgia Tech, that period of time, and same with you guys, as you're leaving college and you're getting ready, we're going to go into coaching. What's your spiritual journey look like at that point in your life, guys?
Well, my spiritual journey, when I left Vanderbilt and went to Georgia Tech, I was a Christian. I believed in Jesus Christ. I said Jesus Christ when I was 10. I remember it like yesterday. But that time of kind of leaving home for the first time and having to dive into something all by myself, and wasn't able to play that year. You were just practicing, so you're going through all of that. Really, really grew in my faith. A guy that Jay's named after, Jay Martin, was a good friend of mine there. We would do Bible studies together. We would talk. So that was a amazing growing experience. And then when I graduated, I was very fortunate enough that I was able to marry my high school sweetheart, who was a phenomenal faith and just incredible. So marrying Trisha when I graduated was another grounding experience for me that has helped me grow in my faith tremendously throughout my life, and means all the difference. So that's kind of what happened with me, with my situation. But I think that being on my own there for a little bit was a really interesting time when I left and went to Tech.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, for me, right out of college was really tough. That time period in my life, I never thought football would end. I know people always say it will, but for me, I don't know. I played sports my whole life. You can ask my mom, like when I was a little kid, like all she talks about, all I wanted to do was play ball, and that's kind of how my life was. And then when it ended for me, it was like kind of just like whoa, and it didn't really like. I thought I would always just walk out with flying colors, everything would be great, and I would but at the same time, at that moment in my life, it wasn't that, and so for me, it was kind of a process, probably these last 6 years after college, just for me, I was upset at the time because it didn't go the way I wanted to my senior year. I had a couple of big concussions, and then at Colorado didn't finish the way any of us wanted to. But and I was like, kind of a little bit wanted to be a little bit bitter towards that, but instead of doing that, the process was to just trust the Lord and trust the plan He has for us. And as that went going on, things started to pop up as I started to just trust the Lord. I wanted a family. I wanted a wife. I wanted my family to be together again in college football. I wanted all that, and the Lord provided it in a time when I started to just totally give Him my whole life, and it took it from it felt like what He took was good, and what He gave us was a whole new thing that He wanted us here. And that's one reason I really enjoy FIU, and that I never take it for granted, because I feel like this is the Lord telling us this is where we're supposed to be. He wanted us here. He wanted us in a transition. And then also, I just got engaged 2 weeks ago, and he right when that happened, and then he gave me the wife that I've always prayed for, and that. So it's pretty cool. The Lord has a better plan for your life than you do. People always say that, but I didn't really think that that was going to be the case, and I was proven wrong by Him. And really, from my whole life going forward, I'm just going to trust in Him and know that whatever's going on in the hard times, there's a plan for it. And I think that's why my dad is so resilient too, because he knows there's a plan for it. And I'm going to teach that to my kids. I'm going to raise my family in the Lord, all that type of stuff. And this is going to help me be more resilient down the road.
Thanks for your transparency, Jay. Thank you.
Yeah. And congratulations.
Yes.
On,
Thank you.
getting engaged.
Thank you.
Johnston, what about you? How, as you finished college, where were you at in that spiritual journey at that point in your life?
Yeah, I'd say my answer is probably pretty similar to my dad's. Just kind of growing up in a household of faith my whole life, like there's no question, like that has a huge impact on everything we did, going to church every Sunday, sometimes during the week as well. Definitely leaving and kind of having to build your own faith, kind of your own thing away from your family. When I went to college, and then now, in the past 2.5 years or so that I've been out of college, just kind of on that journey of finding my own faith and really living it out myself rather than just being a part of it with my family. So definitely leaving home and going out to California for college was definitely had a big growth time for me. And then really I was back with the family for 2 years in Miami, and that was great. And then back here, moved here in about March to Mississippi. So definitely different being here after being around the family all the time, but really enjoying it, and continuing to grow in my faith daily. But yeah, just I'd say the biggest growth time for me was probably when I left, left and made that decision to go to Chapman, and had to really take a step of faith right there. And I struggled a lot of times, like we said earlier, with finding my identity and my success on the football field and different things like that too, and having to let go of that and really finding Jesus as the rock to stand on. Not only in life, but also that helped me have a lot more success on the football field too, to just let go of the identity being if I have a good practice or I have a bad practice, but finding my identity in Christ.
Thank you for your transparency too, Johnston. Let me interrupt you for a moment. I'm grateful for the opportunity that I have to do this podcast with my son, Austin. For the last 10 years, Austin and I have had many intimate conversations on his drive home from work. Some of these father-son conversations have been lighthearted, while others have been very deep and emotional. Over the Christmas holidays, we decided to start a podcast called Awaken Kingdom Culture, where we invite our friends to share their life-changing stories with you, our listeners. This podcast is done under our nonprofit, The Win Awakening, a sports ministry network for coaches, athletes, and those who lead. Our vision is to awaken hearts and minds, one story at a time. Our mission is to encourage coaches and athletes and those who lead to live from a place of victory, regardless of success, records, or the scoreboard. Our goal is to create safe environments where transparency and vulnerability are accepted, and value and worth are recognized in an atmosphere of love. Right in the middle of your mess, I'm reminded daily that the most important person of my day is the one in front of me, and that one matters, and that you are the one. WinAwakening.org is our website. I encourage you to visit our website where you can encounter the good news of who you are in Christ and what you already possess and how to live from it. There you'll find blogs, videos, Andrew's journal, and this podcast, Awaken Kingdom Culture, where hearts and minds come alive, one story at a time. I'm thankful for all of you who have given and are a member of Team Win. Awaken Kingdom Culture is listener supported. And if you'd like to support us, you can go to winawakening.org. We are a nonprofit. I encourage you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. And please like, share, and write a review on Spotify or YouTube. Okay, it's time to get back to the podcast. So let's go to the college coaching career, and question I love to ask coaches, and we'll start with your dad. But why do you coach? And then Mike, describe to our listeners what is Coach McIntyre's coaching philosophy, leadership style, however you want to do that, and maybe some of the men that influenced you in those areas.
The reason I coach is to influence young men to Christ, and
Mm.
and you do that by loving them and helping them see each other accountable, see their worth outside of football, and that's hard a lot of times because the way it is a performance driven and everything's under a microscope, but when they can see that all the things that they're doing off the field and all the things that the choices they're making, the friends they're choosing, they're building their character on a daily basis, is things that I try to point out to them over and over and over. And then, I love coaching football. It's in my DNA. I definitely believe this is what I no doubt this is what the Lord wants me to do. When I was leaving Colorado, I actually thought about sitting out a while or maybe getting out or doing something different, and I kept looking at it. My wife and I kept talking, and then we just came to realization that we still had so much more to give, and one of the things we wanted to give more of, as I was been coaching through the years, is when I was always coaching before. A lot of times, my staff and the guys I worked with on the staff when I was head coach or coordinator or whatever, was always had my faith with them, and always worked with them, but they were more of a second priority to the players, and my view changed when I left Colorado, and then when we started kind of talking and going through things. My wife and I talking when we were at Ole Miss, and then we were at Memphis. That if the Lord gave us an opportunity to be a head coach again, that our priority was going to be the staff, the young staff, the developing coaches for the future in our game of trying to do it the right way and trying to show them what family's about and what the marriage is about, and what love for your wife, and developing the. So I have more of a heart for my coaches. That Lord changed my viewpoint on that. And I still have a heart for my players. There's no doubt about that. But the heart for the coaches is more than just trying to use them to help us be successful. It's more to help them be successful, and also faith in their families and the faith in the hard things that you go through in our business. So our views change there. So that's why I coach, is try to influence and show the coaches and the players that Christ really is the answer, through the vehicle of football, and all the things you learn there.
Well said, Mike. Guys, Jay and Johnson might not know this as much as your dad. I've kept in touch with him, but that's really the heart of what Austin and I are doing within the ministry, is trying to help coaches think through, what does a kingdom coach look like? And we've defined kingdom from the scriptures as a Christ-centered dominion in all realms of life. So here we are as coaches. So what does that look like on the field? And so we've tried to help coaches think about, well, first of all, as you've already said, Johnston, Jay, all of us, you have to understand your identity. And that's a process. It's not a one-day decision. It's going to be a process. But, when you understand your identity, you got a chance. And then, what does it mean to think transformationally rather than transactionally? Your dad and I grew up in an era where you do this, I'll do that. Well, that's a transactional leader. But someone that is a kingdom coach and thinks from the kingdom, they think differently. They think transformationally. It's about relationships. And then, how do you see a person? Are you able to see through a performance, whether good or bad, and recognize growth? Because life's about growth, right? Some of the greatest of all time failed a lot before they ever were successful. Your dad's done that in programs he's been a part of. And then being able to listen from your heart to a person's heart. We talk to our coaches. A lot of times you'll see a player, flapping his lips, or a coach saying something, but their heart really isn't what they're saying. And so being able to listen to a person's heart, and then speaking differently. I know for me, I had two people in my career that they about killed me because of the words that were used. Instead of speaking life, they were stealing life. And so, how do we speak? Words matter that come out of our mouth to one another. And then the other one that we just recently talked about was the power of touch as a coach. When that player comes on the sideline and they feel like they've done awful, Johnson, you being a quarterback, myself, your dad, you don't want words necessarily, but you see that coach, I'm sure like Mike's dad did, put his arm around you. No words are needed, but he's there with that touch saying, I'm here with you in your moment. And then recognizing that the presence of God is always there. And so those are the things that, as I hear you guys talk, I'm hearing kingdom coaches, the desire to really make an impact in people's lives. And that's what we're about here at Awaken Kingdom Culture. So, but Austin, I know you want to ask those guys the same thing.
Yeah. So, Jay, first, did you feel any pressure to get into coaching?
I never felt pressure. My dad's always been, he's going to support me in whatever I do. Same with my mom, same with my brother, same with my sister. That's just kind of how our family rolls. We're going to support each other, and we're going to be there for each other no matter what. But so there was no pressure there. But obviously, with my grandfather coaching, my dad coaching, and having a lot of success doing it, that's something that I always felt like, I wanted to be like them. I always thought I was going to coach growing up. I even, playing, I would take more notes on different things coaching wise that I liked or didn't like, and different things like that, because I knew that this was kind of my master's program to be a coach. Also, while getting a degree, because you're in it every day. You can get a head start if you take every day doing that. So I think that's helped me, have success early on in my career as a coach. But no, I never felt any pressure there. But it's definitely something that was always in the back of my mind that I thought I would want to do.
What about you, Johnson? Did you feel any pressure to be a coach?
Definitely didn't feel pressure to be a coach. If anything, maybe pressure to not be a coach.
From mama.
Yeah, from my mom. But no, they support me no matter what. But yeah, and definitely didn't feel any pressure. I really didn't know I wanted to do it or not until like I was just finishing up school in December 2021. And my dad got the job at FIU, and he's like, "Hey, you want to come be a GA for me?" I was like, "Yeah, sure, shoot, let's do it. I'll try it out, and we'll all be together." And I loved it for those 2 years, and definitely want to continue doing it. But just I knew it was always something maybe I wanted to do, just growing up in it and loving every part of watching my dad do it, and then of course the impact my coaches have made on me, especially my college coach, like Coach Owens, I was talking about earlier. The impact he had on me as really a person more so than even as a player, um, led me to want to do this as well.
Yeah. Well, obviously we're all young coaches. How have you been shaping your coaching philosophy, kind of in the role you're in right now? Jay first, and then Johnson second. But how would you describe your coaching philosophy?
Like philosophy of like not X's and O's, just like philosophy as a
Yeah.
person, as a coach. Yeah. Well, for me, I always take the responsibility, and my dad says this, and I've heard some other coaches say this, but be the head coach. I want to be a head coach one day, and I just that's the dream, but also be the head coach of your room. So right now, like especially when I don't have kids right now and everything. I got 19 kids in my room in the receiver room, and that's how I see them. And I am transparent with them. I show them my heart. I'm not scared to do that because I feel like if I do that, then they won't be scared to do it with them either. I started in the recruiting process. I love the recruiting process. I love, I got guys in my room. Pretty much all the guys in my room now are guys that I've brought in, or I've inherited. There's some that I've inherited that have been huge blessings in my life, and I love it. But I love my room. All those guys, I'm able to be there with them when they're going through hard times, and be there with them when they're making big plays on the field. I always tell them I have an open door policy. They can come in there whenever they want. They can be hanging out, just having a tough day. They need someone to talk to, or they don't want to talk to me at all. They just need somewhere to sit. They can come sit in my office and hang out, and that's I don't I love going in that room and being able to influence them, and then heck, they influence me in a big way too. I would say something that changed my life was my first coaching job. I was at Southeastern University, um, and it's a Christian school, NAI school, and those guys changed probably the direction of my life in a lot of ways. Just the way they were able to, push me through a hard time in my life, and that's why I coach, and that's why I'll continue to coach. And I love every day going in there, and I don't always love the academic reports sometimes when they're not doing good, but they don't love those days either because I have to get on to them. Um, but the one thing that and then I'll share it off to Johnson. But just like I struggled different times in my life with performance-based stuff, we talk about that in there. I'm not scared to talk about it with them. I'm not scared to tell them, what they're really. I can tell them what they're really good at. What I see their how good of a brother they are, how good of a friend they are, all this stuff that give them more worth than just football, because a lot of times coaches are just talking football with you, doing this. No, that they're not scared to talk about their life with me. I'm not scared to talk about my life with them, and then help us understand that yes, we're football players, we're playing big time college football, all that type of stuff, and we got to perform. Yes, I got to perform as a coach, but at the same time, we're bigger than that, and
Yes.
the Lord has a plan for us. So that's something that I'll always do, and I love doing it.
Awesome. What about you, Johnson?
Yeah, I'd say first thing, just show them that I really love and care for them beyond what they can do for us on the football field. And I think I've gotten that from my brother and my dad, as they do a great job of that, of getting to know them as truly people and showing them who you are as a person. And like Jay said, he just being around Jay and being in his room a lot. The 2 years I was in Miami. He does a great job of truly being open and honest and with his guys. There's a word I'm looking for, but I can't think of it right now. That would really describe what I'm saying. But just being open and honest with those guys, beyond football, sharing your own experiences with them, and that's what I really hope to do is all the experiences I went through as a player and learn from, be able to pass those on to them. But just loving the guys and caring for them beyond football, starting with that relationship and then building from there. And I've really enjoyed my first few months, like truly being able to run a room. This is my first time doing that, because as a GA, I was assisting other people, but it's been a blessing to kind of have my own room and be able to lead a group of guys, and they've been awesome every step of the way so far.
Well, if Coach Mario gets out of line, Johnston, you just tell him you're going to give me a call.
I will, Coach. I will.
So let's talk about one of the things that came up in your guys' life. I mean, your dad's career is exceptional. Obviously, he's been in many schools across the country. He's been in a couple pro teams, coached with some great coaches, goes to San Jose State, turns that thing around. Mike, you finally get your chance at Colorado. You got to build a foundation. You do that for a couple of years. Then 2016, big time year, Pac-12 South Division champs, coach of the year all over multiple newspapers, etc. 2017, you go 4-7, and then 2018 hits. I think you start out 5-0. And end up having a 6-game losing streak, and they tell you they no longer need your services. Now, most people look at coaches and they see them with the trophy. I know I've experienced what you're hopefully going to talk a little bit about now, but what's going through your heart and mind, Mike, when you get that news? And now, how does your faith help you walk through this? Just tell us what you're thinking at this time.
Well, I think you're thinking a lot of different emotions, but there's no doubt my faith helped me walk through that time. The backbone to our whole family's faith is my wife's prayer. She's an absolute prayer warrior, and there's no doubt that the prayer that she had prayed before that, during it, that our family felt, that carried us through that situation. Because when you're in your mid 50s, right, Coach, at that time, and you're kind of looking around going, what in the world just happened? And then somewhere down deep in your soul, the fire reignites harder than it ever has before. And the only thing I can say on that's prayer. That's Jesus redirecting our hearts and our minds to realize that we are a lot more important than what people think of us at that time in the papers or whatever. But also, I think at that times when everybody's truly watching, is our faith real? I mean, that's when our faith is really real. It's not when we're standing there on the podium and have accomplished things and they keep telling you what a great thing you've done, when really Christ did it all. And then when it doesn't, it's Christ. They're going to look at that. And I really truly believe that a lot of times he just carried me, and I was just kind of walking in I definitely was walking in his spirit. And has led us to a lot of great other opportunities and things. But at the same time, I believe that his faith, I knew that Christ was real through that whole experience. And as we keep walking on through life, and people, Coach, you kind of look back and go, golly, if I could have done that, I could have done that. And the Lord says, Mike, what are you doing? Just shut up. It's not you anyway. And so I think that's it's been a phenomenal experience. And definitely very, very tough at the time, but also very, very enlightening and very, very heart opening and strengthening of definitely of our family's faith and ties together. And then also realizing that people watched us through those different things and watch us as we're doing now. And there's so many different people that say things to us, and I go, and I walk away and go, thank you, Jesus. I mean, you did that, not us. And I think that's what it was for sure.
Well said, Mike. And I know Austin's going to ask the boys something, but you made me think of one of the things I share with coaches to consider is what you just said. If our faith doesn't show up at 3:00 on a Tuesday or in the locker room after a big win or a loss, then it's useless.
Right.
It's in those moments, highs and lows, that faith is real. And that's hopefully what we can encourage people to consider that are maybe right now struggling with something. But Austin, I know you wanted the boys' perspective.
Yeah, obviously I walked through it, as my dad got fired back in 2006. And, I had my own way of processing through it. What about y'all? Jay first and then Johnson. Tell me about how you process when your dad got fired.
It definitely wasn't easy. I was kind of in the heart of it. I was still playing. That was my redshirt senior year, and I still had one more game to play, and so it, you know, I had cameras following me around at practice. The first practice I got, it was just a circus, and
Yeah.
um, and it also, I have different emotions, different things that, I think that, we don't need to get into. But at the same time, that that was a time where I didn't want to trust the Lord's plan.
Yeah.
And we kind of talked about that. It was a time where I was asking why and different things, because not only was the 6 game losing streak hard on because of that, but also like I barely played in those 6 games. I got knocked out against USC. I got knocked out against Arizona. Like so it's just like I felt like I wanted so badly to help, but I couldn't help, and so that was like really hard for me in that time. But what I realized was, and my mom always says this as we're moving around different places, but she always says we're disciples through football.
Mm,
And our time was done at Colorado. God had a
yeah.
different plan for our lives. And
Wow.
as I'm looking at the kids in my room now, like the 19 kids I have, like I wouldn't be there with those guys if that didn't happen. And we wouldn't be at FIU. We would have been in our comfort zone at Colorado. Um, and he put us out of that. There was more people we had to influence.
Mm,
There was more people that needed to see the Lord. Our time was done at Colorado, and I don't think we would have ever left there if God didn't put his foot down and say, "No, I need you somewhere else." But also, that's why this is such a redemption story.
Mm.
No matter what at FIU, and that's why every day, like it's just fun to show up and go. It's fun to be there. And looking back at it, I'm happy it happened. There's other stuff that happened during that time that I wanted so badly for my life, like so badly. I wanted that. I wanted some other stuff. I wanted to put God in a box, and
mm,
he said, "No, I'm going to take you out of this box, and I'm going to put you somewhere else." And and there's no place I would rather be than at FIU, with my dad now, and also all the great people that I've met, my fiance, all that type of stuff. None of that would have happened if I would have stayed in that box. I don't know where my life would be, and so I'm very very blessed that it happened. And it's crazy that I'm saying that because I don't think I could have said that for a while, So
uh,
that's that.
well, that makes more sense than for
Yeah.
me, I mean, I've walked through that, and mine happened. I found out 2 days before my state championship, my junior year in high school. So I found out he's gone, which where we were at the time, our pastor was my dad's boss, who was also the founder of my high school. It was all interconnected, so everything fell apart. And obviously, God is your rock in the whole thing, but you definitely have questions about your rock, and I think that's the beautiful thing about Papa is he's not afraid of our questions, and he's
Mm.
willing to reveal himself in an even more special and intimate way in those moments when you're finally ready to listen. And I know for me, like you just said, is when you get away and you get some perspective and you start to see how he's worked in that time, you say, I couldn't have orchestrated it as well as you have, Father. And one of the things that God has been putting on my heart lately is that you know, uh, uh, love manifests itself based on need. And God knew what my heart needed to know him more. And, in order for that to happen, you know, I had to walk through some pain and suffering, or, because I put my identity in my dad's status and how he performed and how people viewed him. I was the son of a head coach who was rising in the game prior to that. And, God wanted me to remember that my identity is in his love, and that's what holds me um, firm in no matter whether I'm winning championships, because those will come, and then, or whether I'm losing. And that's something you can only learn through walking through it. So, Johnson, what about you? What was your perspective on the whole situation?
I had it a little bit easier because I wasn't quite as much right in it. Luckily, I wasn't. I mean, I was very close to just going to and being a student at Colorado. I'm very glad I didn't, but I was in California at the time, and luckily wasn't right in the middle of it. But of course, it still meant a lot to me, and it was still really hard on me, and more so, really thinking about Jay and then my dad, because I know how much all that meant to them, and then I mean it was a hard time for our family, no doubt. But like they said, it was definitely hard to see the perspective at the time. But seeing now, we know that it wasn't the plan, and that it's led us that events led us to different places that was where we were supposed to be. So it all works together for good, but definitely at the time it's hard to see that perspective.
Mm.
Let's talk FIU before we go to family in a second. But so Mike bounces around a couple other places, but finally gets another chance at FIU. And so here's my question, Mike, for you. How did you ask your boys to join your staff? And did you have to clear it through your wife?
I, I think it was easy to ask him to be part of the staff. I knew Jay would be a phenomenal receiver coach, and he was doing a great job at Martin. How well they were doing offensively, and I knew he would do an excellent job recruiting. And then Johnston, he didn't tell you his last game of his college career, he broke his ankle terribly. So he was still on crutches and doing all that, and he really didn't have time to interview for jobs. So I said, "Hey, you better do something right now." And it was great to have him come, because I knew he would do a great job in our quarterback room, and see if he wanted to coach and get his master's, which he got his master's and decided he wanted to coach. So, and then thought it'd be great to have our daughter is in Colorado. They're moving now, and so I. Thought that getting the guys back together would be awesome, and I know Mom would love that. And so it was a great time, and we knew the opportunity for that window would only be probably now. And the Lord, I was praying about it, thinking about it, and we decided to do that. And I was glad they decided to come and help us get this started. And they were they've been a great part of the foundation for it, and excited about where it's headed.
Jay Johnson, share what went through your heart and mind when your dad offered you the job.
Well, I remember, just watching the press conference when he first got hired at FIU, because it was kind of just like it kind of that's the way it is in coaching. It kind of happens one night, and then before, like, you barely can talk to him, and then all of a sudden he's the head coach, and you haven't even talked to him about it, what's going on. And then so I watched the press conference, and I remember just I was in my office, and Martin just kind of had tears in my eyes, because we weren't sure if it was going to happen again, if he was going to be a head coach. And I know, his fire and determination, and wanted him that way. But whatever the Lord had planned, he was going to be willing to do. And it kind of came at the perfect time, like he said, for all of us to be together. And I was fired up. I actually, I loved being at UT Martin, but he called me and offered me the job, and I told my coach, and I actually finished the recruiting weekend that weekend, and then I left that Sunday. But I packed my stuff up that Sunday and drove down to Miami and got ready to go. And then it was kind of me and my dad kind of figuring it out at the beginning, because I came down there and helped him, because he had so much stuff on his plate. and I just came down there and we were, kind of building it, kind of the way we want to build it. It's kind of like you're creating a whole program and doing it the way the Lord had envisioned for our lives, and we got to do it together. So it was really fun, and doing that, and it's been fun throughout. So no, it was a blessing, and definitely a time I'll always remember is watching that press conference in my office. Just so excited for my dad. Not for me. Not for me to be there. I'm really excited that I'm able to all that stuff, but just he deserves it, and there's no better person that they could have hired, and I knew that for the kids that are going to be in that locker room. And so I was excited for him. I was excited for that, for the locker room. I was excited for all that stuff, and then something that he deserved.
What about you, Johnson?
Yeah, kind of like Jay said, it's crazy how fast that stuff happens. Like sometimes Twitter knows before even we know. Um, So, like that's legitimate. For me, it was real. It was real informal when we were like, because he had pretty much gotten the job, and I was helping him I was helping him fill out something because it was some weird way, like something he electronic. I was helping him out, and he's like, "Hey, by the way, you want to come be a GA for me?" It's like, "Yeah, sure." It
Wait, you're
was.
telling me you had to fill out some of your dad's paperwork? I've had to do that many a time.
But more than anything, I was just so excited for him to be able to get that opportunity to be a head coach again, and at a place in an awesome location down in Miami at an awesome university. So I was just ecstatic for him to get that opportunity and wanted to help out in any way I could. Was really the emotions I was feeling.
Well, you both said it, and I know your dad feels this way. You don't get to do that often in a lifetime. And so I'm sure that the memories will be something you'll hold close to your heart. And I just hope that you guys will have many more years together. But Mike, let's talk about your wife. You already mentioned her a few times. What makes her special, and how does she make you a better coach?
Wow. Well, she is incredible. Number one, she loves me besides all my faults. Number two, and the thing that's amazing about Trisha is she has an endless giving, and how she gives to all of our kids, to all the wives, the coaches, the players. They can truly see how much she cares. But I said it before. It's true. She's amazing at her time of prayer, her time with the Lord, her time that it totally flows out of her. She has great wisdom, and she's the true. Her prayers are the true backbone of our family, and it lifts all of us up, and has opened up doors for us, and shut other doors that we weren't supposed to go through of all our family. And so she's amazing, and I am beyond thankful that God convinced her to love someone like me, and it's made all the difference in the world in our family. And she's absolutely amazing.
Tell us about your daughter.
My daughter Jennifer, she's incredible. Her and her husband Blake. Blake married Jennifer 5 years ago, 6 years ago now, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and he's been awesome. And we have two grandkids, a son Ford, and that's two, and a granddaughter Trisha, Lynn, that's 6 months. And but Jennifer's incredible. She grew up she was a really good basketball player, and she ended up going to Baylor University and loving going to school there. She's a lot like the girl on Remember the Titans. She
Oh,
knows
yes.
football. She watches it. She'll yell at the television, whatever. But she's been incredible, and she was an incredible older sister to the two boys. I think it's true. And you've been in a family. Jennifer laid the foundation for the boys, how she
Mm.
lived, the type of Christian person she was. And she was a phenomenal role model. And I think that's so important for the first one to be that and show that. And so she was she's been and has always been a phenomenal example to our boys.
That's a great lead in for you, eh?
Yeah. So tell us about, obviously you guys are very close. Tell us about y'all's relationship with your sister.
Yeah, our relationship has been very close with Jennifer. Just like my dad said, she laid the foundations for us as siblings. You see families all the time where their older siblings are mean to their younger siblings. They don't include them in stuff. That was never the case with Jennifer. She always included us in everything. She also was our biggest fan, and so we saw her love from the beginning. Just saw how she cared about us. She included us. She wanted us to, be successful at whatever. There was no jealousy, any of that. And, then when Johnson was born, it was like an automatic bond between me and him. I had to wait till he was one till we could start wrestling. But we kept on asking my mom, "Can we wrestle?" I don't know why we wanted to do that, but once he turned one, we were able to wrestle. He was all in too. He wasn't going to win, but no, and then it just that's just kind of how we were the rest of our lives. We included everybody. It was always us three, us three against the world. We were for each other. And then the reason she was like that, the reason we were like that together, all that type of stuff was because of our parents and our grandparents. They're great role models, and then Jennifer was a great role model for me, and then hopefully I was a good role model for Johnson, and then and now we're coaching, and we're role models for tons of kids that will coach our whole lives. So, but Jennifer definitely set the example from the start.
What about you, Johnson? How would you describe your relationships with each of your siblings?
Yeah, definitely. Like I said earlier, I'm extremely blessed with some awesome role models. Both of them have been incredible to me my whole life. I've always loved being the youngest, to be honest, and having them to look up to. But like they're both my best friends, will be for life. So such a blessing to have them in my life. Jennifer, like my dad, he's not exaggerating. You don't want to watch a football game with her. I'll say that. I try to not sit with her at the football games, but other than that, I love spending time with her. And then
That was my mom. I didn't want to sit by her.
yeah.
Be
But,
careful what you say, Austin. She's there.
yeah, and then Jay, he's been great my whole life. We were I was closer to him in age, so probably spent more time with him growing up, just because Jennifer and me are about 7 years apart. But still, even though we're so far apart, I don't like we're still really close. I don't feel like it. It's that big of a difference. But me and Jay, just growing up, we kind of always blended our friend groups. Like it always just seemed like Jay's couple of buddies and my couple of buddies, we were always together. It was just always hanging out. So definitely a blessing to have both of them in my life.
Awesome.
Guys, we're going to get ready to close here. We're going to do the last period here. It's called Talking Legacy. And what I want to ask all three of you is, what would you say was your most significant moment in your spiritual journey?
I would say my most significant moment in my spiritual journey, as I talked about it earlier, is when my dad got let go at Vanderbilt and I moved to Atlanta. I didn't know a soul on the team. I didn't know anybody, in the football program there. And moving to Atlanta and being there on my own at that time, and really growing my depth. Ended up going to Wyuka Road Baptist Church right there, and just really had time to really grow and kind of search through everything. And I think that was besides, of course, the day I accepted Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. That was kind of the moment where, hey, is this truly what you're going to follow in your faith? And that's where I think that was a defining moment.
Thanks, Mike. Jay or Johnston, either one?
Yeah, for me, I mean, we kind of already talked about it, but I mean, it's been, the years after college. Because at Colorado, I was near my family, with my dad every day. My mom was right there. I kind of had, not only did all that stuff happen, and I kind of had to look myself in the mirror and pick myself up piece by piece, trusting the Lord's plan. And it wasn't easy, and it didn't just take overnight to do it. But also, I was away from my family for the first time. I've moved a bunch of different places, but I hadn't really been by myself. Like
Mm.
I was by myself in the hardest time of my life, and trying to figure out, you know, different people, just trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, and if what was the plan for my life. And it's cool when you look back at that, but like in the moment, you're like overwhelmed, can't even like think about, just get me through this day. But looking back, the Lord had these steps planned for me at Southeastern University, then to Martin, and now at FIU. That totally, as hard as it was trying to change me into who He had a plan for my life to be.
Mm.
And we're all work in progress, work in progress.
Amen.
That's one thing that I try to preach to my guys, is because you don't have to be perfect. And that it's okay. We fall, we mess up. Same thing. We use this in my room all the time, but one snap and clear, you drop a ball, you do that, next play. Same thing in life. You mess up. Now we're going to address it. We're going to fix it, and we're going to strive to get better, but we're not going to just dwell on mistakes. We're not just going to dwell in the past. And, that's something that, I don't think my whole life, I was like, tried to be perfect. I had to let go of that. And I let go of that, and I trusted the Lord, and I picked myself up, and the Lord brought me to where He wanted me to go. So, that was a huge part of my life. It could have gone either way. But luckily, it went the Lord's way. It went, I don't, the reason it did was I have so many people around me that love and care for me. And that's what I want to do as a coach. I want to help them, when it could go either way, go in the right way. And can't wait to do that the rest of my life coaching.
Thanks, Jay.
Yeah.
I think for me, kind of like I said earlier, a big one was making the decision to go to Chapman, go off to school in California on my own. I think that kind of changed the trajectory for me, and I don't think I would be coaching football if I wouldn't have done that. And
Mm.
then the next one I think has been the decision to come here to Belhaven, leaving Miami in around March and coming here, and I think I've grown a lot in just my little time I've been here so far, and just kind of once again being away and being on my own and having to step out and take a leap of faith on my own.
Thanks, Johnson. So when someone spends time with you, and again, this is to all three of you, when someone spends time with you, what do you want them to experience, and how do you want to be remembered?
I think if someone spends time with me, I hope they feel Christ's presence. And what I mean by that, I hope they're having fun, they're enjoying their time, they can be themselves. And then I hope in some way, somehow, I guess it's the leadership process. I mean, I can somehow, some way give them some hope of you know, they can believe in themselves and where they are at the time, and trust in Christ to keep growing and keep pushing and keep walking through, and just keep moving in the right direction. I hope they can feel that in those type of times. But I think one part of it is to be themselves and enjoy themselves and have some fun and laugh a lot. I would hope.
Thanks, Mike.
Yeah. One thing that I definitely hope that people see when they're around me is, when I was younger, I felt like I was trying to be so like perfect. Like I try to, that sometimes there was like kind of a dark cloud, that I didn't want to be there, but like it just like it consumed me, because I was trying to go on a path that was, yeah, I was trusting, I was a Christian, all this type of stuff, but I tried to be like, everything had to be perfect, and it made me more probably negative than I should have been. But that's kind of changed in my life, kind of when that all happened. And one thing that Johnson kind of always is giving off, and that's why everyone loves to be around Johnson, is he gives off this presence that, like, he's fun, that, like, he doesn't take life too seriously. He makes these jokes on here, like, that's just kind of how he is. Like like if I have a bad game or something like that, I would be mad for like 3 weeks. Like, I couldn't get over it. But Johnson, like, the minute he had a bad game, he'd be cracking jokes about his game. Like, oh, we got another one next week. I threw 2 picks, but whatever. Like just kind of like not the end of the world. And that's kind of reflected off of me, and kind of been the way that, like, I kind of want to be to these guys, and to people that meet me, like, that. Yes, I have a big heart, and that I care for you, number one, but then also that, and something my mom does too, like, is it just gives you a present that you're going to be accepting them no matter what,
Mm.
and that it's okay to not be to mess up. It's okay, all that type of stuff. But that you're going to be there for them no matter what, and hopefully that's who I am now, and hopefully that's how I reflect.
Thanks, Jay. Johnson.
Yeah, I definitely hope people have peace to be themselves around me, and know that I care for them and for who they truly are. And no matter kind of what both of them said, but no matter through the highs and lows, that I'll be there for you. And hopefully I can be somebody that they can count on, regardless if it's in the good times or the bad times. And I definitely like to have fun and like to joke around and laugh, and hopefully they're able to do that with me as well.
Definitely need a short memory as a cue, right? You throw those 3
Yes,
picks, you
sir.
gotta be able to forget about it.
Yes, sir. No doubt.
But the last thing we do, guys, is called final words. And you can do it how you would like. But Mike, would like you to share any final words that you might have to your boys, either individually or together. And then, guys, something that any final words you have to your dad or to each other. And then Austin will share something, and then I'll wrap it up with a close.
Yeah, with my two guys there, just know that I love you, and I am so you guys lift me up. I'm so amazed at you, and I'm praying for you daily, and you can always reach out to me no matter what. So the main thing is I love you through and through.
Yeah, same thing. Johnson, Dad, love you guys. Johnson, we're gonna see you next Thursday. He's coming down here, so I can't wait to see him. Dad, I'll see you tomorrow, bright and early, ready to go. So, but honestly, can't wait. Can't wait for tomorrow. Can't wait for the season. It's gonna be fun coaching with you.
Yep, I love y'all. Appreciate everything y'all have done for me, and can't wait to see y'all on Thursday.
Austin?
I'm just, like I say pretty much on all these, is I'm grateful for the opportunity to step in and get to listen to y'all's story. Like Dad kind of referenced earlier, is just we all have unique stories, and they all fit together for the kingdom, his kingdom, and we all play a role, and that's the beauty of there's coaches all over the country, and if we all have our eyes fixed on the kingdom, we have an opportunity to bring this kingdom or his kingdom here on earth. And one of the things that God put on my heart throughout the podcast is just we have the way he designed it. He designed it to things to be passed down from their parents to their children, and some we call it generational. And I just see that here, from your dad, Coach McIntyre, to you, to your children. You can just see how living out our faith, although none of us are perfect and none of us, do everything right, but just, with eyes watching you, it gets passed down. And I believe that was the intent of Papa, is that, we are all in relationship with him, but he put us in front of earthly parent or under earthly parents so that we can pass it down to each other. And then the beautiful thing we have as coaches is we get to step into more people's lives and then be able to share those things as well. with other people, and just continue to encourage them and provide hope for them and direction for other people as we're all searching to know him and to make him known. So I'm just grateful for the opportunity to spend this last hour and a half with y'all. And I'll be praying for you as you walk into this next season at FIU and then Belhaven. You guys are closer to us. I'm down in Mobile.
Gotcha.
So I'm looking forward to hearing how y'all continue to do in your process. Dad?
Johnson actually recruits down in Mobile.
Yeah, that's my area, South Alabama.
Well, then we'll see. I just took a job. I was at Alma Bryant, and then I had a little transition, but then I moved to Faith Academy. So
got you. All right, I was there. I was there in I was at Faith Academy in May. So.
Oh, awesome. Well, yeah. I got signed on. Last week was my first week, which is not ideal, but it's what God had in store. So.
Well, guys, I want to echo a little bit of everything that each of you said. And just let you know, I'm grateful to look on this screen and see different people from across the country, but more importantly, to see a father and his sons. And again, we're not leaving out our wives or mothers or sisters by any means, but, just to see the role that you play in each other's life. And my encouragement, if I can encourage you in any way, as you prepare for another season, there's two things that have really been on my heart with coaches. And the first is to ask yourself this question when you're looking in the mirror and it's just you, because we've talked a lot today about identity and ups and downs of coaching. But look in the mirror and ask yourself the question, how are you? We live in a society where that question's asked a lot, and then people, oh, good, great, fine, better off than you deserve. And we give these flippant answers, but, really, how are you? And then the question that goes right along with it is, who's taking care of you? We all need somebody. And what's beautiful about what you guys have is, Jay, in your case with your dad, you're together every day. You got an opportunity to be able to be there for each other in more ways than one. Johnson moving to a new opportunity. I mean, I think of Mario. Mario and you would be great to encourage each other. But we need each other. And I'm just grateful that you've let us in your story and the highs, the lows. And I know that it'll be a opportunity to touch many of our listeners. What's really been neat about this is I'll get calls weeks later after it posts, and someone out of the blue will say, boy, that one really spoke to me. And someone else will say, that spoke to me. And that's the beauty of our stories. So continue to share your stories with people. I think, Jay, of how you've tried to open that receiver room up. Yes, you're coaching wideouts, but really what you're doing is you're drawing out people's stories to help them walk out of an identity that's long lasting. And so I encourage you. I appreciate your realness that you guys have shown. Obviously, I've known your dad for a long time. It's an honor to get to meet you guys personally, other than a name on a piece of paper. And just know this, that Austin and I are here for whatever that looks like. I mean, we may talk 6 months from now, or you may have something come up and you say, I just need to talk to somebody. And we just want to encourage you. But thank you for giving us the chance to share your story with our listeners at Awaken Kingdom Culture, where hearts and minds come alive, one story at a time.